Next is Pascal. Y'all, Pascal styled a wig from Temu. Like, I was gagged when he did this as his talent, but like... Hi everyone, my name is Demetri and welcome back to DemetriTube, The Bachelorette, Golden Edition. Let's talk about it. As always, if you're enjoying my videos, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. I'm a growing YouTuber and the like subscribes really help me out. Just one quick thing before we get started. Love is Blind returns next week. Hold on, I need a calendar. I'm pretty sure it returns next week, but I am very excited. This season is in Washington, D.C., which most people here didn't even think was gonna happen, but I'm very excited to watch. I plan to review it, but also it is gonna be very tough with Golden Bachelorette going on, plus I have a day job, so I haven't figured all of that out yet, but I'm definitely gonna try to at least review it. So if you're interested in that, definitely subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out. The episode starts and we're taking another tour of the mansion yet again, but I was actually wondering about this because, like, if y'all didn't know, like, the contestants stay in bunk beds and these people are a bit older, so I was actually kind of curious about this and I'm glad they talked about it. And the funniest part is Charles L is one of the oldest ones, but at the same time, he's also one of the fittest ones, so they put him in the top bunk. But honestly, dudes are pretty good about this. It's like the same thing in the army. Like, the youngest and the fittest and the healthiest are gonna go to the top bunks. And then, like, the people who are older or actually have health issues, they're gonna get the bottom bunks. That's just like how it goes. And then when the guys were talking about snoring, whenever there's a group of men like this, at least, especially at their age, at least one of them snores. At least one. And also, I was shocked that nobody has that, like, sleep machine. You know that sleep apnea machine? You see that, like, I've never seen a woman wear it, but I'm sure there is. But it's those sleep apnea machines. They put on a mask and it has those huge tubes. I'm shocked nobody wears one of those. And then the Frenchman, Pascal, he doesn't know how to do his laundry. And I'm confused because you've been here like a day. How do you already have laundry? And Pascal also mentions that he sleeps naked. And I'm like, sir, you can wear underwear to bed for like 6 weeks. It's not that serious. After that, we move into the first date. It's a group date and the theme is 80s prom. This theme is so overdone. They have done this theme on Bachelor, Bachelorette, Paradise, etc. so many times and I'm like kind of tired of it. Can they at least change up the theme? Like, I'm okay with doing a prom, but just change up the theme sometimes. And in ABC's defense, this date actually makes sense because the majority of the contestants, if they went to prom, their prom was likely during the 80s. So this makes more sense than, like, with the franchises with the younger contestants, but still, I'm just so tired of seeing an 80s prom on this show. And Joan's dress was okay. Like, I didn't really care for it. Like, it's not that it looked bad, but it didn't really look that good. But also, I'm just not a huge fan of 80s fashions. And Keith said he looked like a magician, and in fact, he did look like a magician. So for the date, it's a typical 80s prom. All the contestants ride in a limo with Joan to a high school. There's a dance floor. They have Taylor, Dane, perform, they spike the punch, there's a few games, there's photos, like the whole 9 yards, typical prom. And there's just a few things I want to mention about this date. First, Joan rode in a limo with the other contestants to prom. I thought this was very weird. Normally the lead meets the contestants at the location, but for this one, Joan rode with them. I don't know, that's just weird, I guess because they just never do it like that on the show. But also, I guess they wanted to stick with the theme, like you meet up for prom, have the prom pics, ride the limo to the function. Like, that makes sense, but usually the lead meets the contestants at the venue. Next, Taylor Dane was the musical entertainment for the evening, and she did a really good job, but the only read I have is, like, was she actually singing? Because at some points, it looked like it was lip singing, and she sounded so good, I almost didn't believe that she was singing. And then later on, we also find out that Jordan went on a date with Taylor Dane, like, 5 years ago, and, like, y'all... The more Jordan talks, the more sus I think he is. So Jordan went on a date with Taylor Dane 5 years ago. So he's been dating for at least 5 years now and he hasn't found anyone. And like, the thing about that is like, to me, Jordan is like quite the catch. So for him to have been dating for 5 years and still not found anyone is like kind of sus to me. But I don't know. That's like, I don't know. There's a lot of people who date for a while and don't find anyone. But to me, it's kind of giving maybe he's very picky. And then this is like gonna sound kind of bad, but also like numbers wise, women tend to live longer than men. So like single available men like Jordan, there's not like, I feel like the numbers are in his favor. So for him to be dating that long and not find someone is kind of sus to me, but I'm probably just reading too hard. Next, why does Jonathan not have an undershirt on? Like, he just had his bare chest in the suit. Like, maybe he didn't bring a collared shirt, but like, you don't even have like a white undershirt or like a white t-shirt you could have worn under this. That would have looked way better than just a bare chest. And like, I get it. You have a cool tattoo and you want to show it off, but like, time and place. Next, if you made it this far in the video, please go ahead and pound that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And then later on, Jonathan tells us a story about how he never went to his prom because he went to like a Catholic school and he asked a girl out, and then a week before she said she didn't want to go or something. So he ended up not going, and it was like some kind of sad story. So maybe I'm like a douchebag or something, but it's really hard for me to feel bad when people tell me stories about high school. Like, please move on. Like, please. And like, in general, a lot of people have a tough time in high school. So I'm just like, you're not special, sir. And like, this was so long ago. Like, please move on. I don't know. And it's not Jonathan specifically, but people who are like 10 years out of high school still sad over things that happened then, like, move on. And Jonathan later on ends up winning the group date rose. He ends up being chosen by Joan as the prom king, and she was the prom queen. But I really think Charles L should have won that rose. And speaking of Charles L, y'all, Charles L is so cute. He tried to do his little dance moves. He was just so happy to be there. And then at one point, he was on the bleachers sitting by himself. Like, y'all, this man is so adorable. Like, I just love him. And he ends up getting a one-on-one with Joan, and we find out Charles L only dated one person his whole life. And if you've watched my channel, y'all know how I feel about that. Like, I really don't like hearing stories like that because I just feel like you won the lottery. You didn't have to be in these streets. You don't have to deal with the mental warfare and the mental gymnastics that we are dealing with daily. But at the same time, it also is unfortunate because you never know when your partner will go, and it's like, I guess he expected them to kind of like be together forever, and her just randomly getting a brain aneurysm. When he was explaining it, it was very much unexpected. And this is like double tough because he's dated one person his whole life. So not only does he have to like start over and get back out there, like before he met his wife, he didn't even do any dating. So that's like, I couldn't even imagine. Overall, his story is like so crazy to me because he dated one person, they ended up being married for like 35 plus years or whatever, a great love story. And now he's got to get back into the dating world at this age with like virtually no experience other than what he had with his wife. Like, that's wild. And then he also tells Joan, he doesn't say he was depressed, but he was basically depressed for like a few years after his wife's passing. And at one point, his daughters had to like pull him out of this depression and encourage him to like get back out there and do things and try to move on. And like, that story really touched my heart. Like, you could tell he's like super close to his daughters, and like they really like help pull him together after his wife died. And just personally, after hearing all of this, I really don't think Charles L is ready for another partner. Like, I'm glad he went on this show because he is putting himself out there, but like all of this just seems like a distraction. Like, I don't think he's ready. And don't get me wrong, he seems a lot better than what he was 2 years ago. Like, I think they said his wife passed away 5 years ago, and like those first 2 years were really rough for him. So he sounds a lot better from there. But to say he's ready for another relationship to me is very questionable. Next, they had some photos of Joan and the other contestants from the 80s, and they did not zoom in on this one, but was that Mark with a mullet? I'm gonna try to pull up the photo, but I swear that was Mark, but with a mullet. Next, it has been confirmed Joan likes him tall. So Joan was having a slow dance with one of the contestants, I think it was Gary, and he was asking her about her experience at prom, and she said she had a date, but the guy had a mustache and he was short, and I'm like, girl, you did not have to add that. And like, she said it in a way where it was like, oh, I was embarrassed because the guy was shorter than me. And it's like, okay, Joan, I knew you were shallow. I was just waiting for it to come out, and here we go. And last thing I want to mention about this prom date. So when Joan was announcing who the prom king was, she like got on stage, and y'all may have not caught this, but they definitely had like a Beyonce fan. Like, when she was up there, her hair was like blowing in the wind, and I'm like, whose idea was it to have this fan up there? After that, we have a one-on-one date with Chock, and for the date, they go to Disneyland. So why on this show have they not gone to Disneyland before? Like, this makes sense. The only reason I could see is maybe it's just tough to do a filming day there, but like, why have they not done this before? ABC is owned by Disney. It's perfect product placement. And overall, I feel like a lot of contestants on The Bachelor and Bachelorette would just love to do this for the date. This would be a really fun date. Overall, the date was fun. There's not really much to talk about. They hung out with Mickey Mouse, they rode rides, like they walked around. It was just like a nice daytime date at an amusement park. And then we move on to the night portion, and Joan serves us this gorgeous light blue gown. She looks amazing, and y'all know I love an over-the-top gown fantasy. The only read I do have is that this was a little too princessy for me, but they're at Disneyland, so you should have on a princess gown. So this tracks, but there's another outfit later in the episode that I liked more. During the night portion, we find out, so Chock had 2 wives. The first wife he dated for like 12 years and it just wasn't a fit. And then his second wife he was with for 9 years, and then she ended up having a glioblastoma, and like she ended up dying in his arms, and that was like such a sad story. And when Chock was explaining this, at one point he was saying like when she was dying, he like kind of questioned, he was like, why her? Like, why not take me instead? And overall on this show, we just get so many like existential life questions. It's actually pretty jarring. And honestly, I'm just one of those people, I put my faith in God, and I just think everything happens like for a reason, and you can't just question it too much because like you'll never get an answer, you know? In general on this show, we just get so many existential life questions, and like I was not expecting this, but I'm assuming it happened a lot on the Golden Bachelor too. Next, Chock also compares Joan to his ex-wife, and he says it as a compliment, like a lot of the amazing qualities of his ex-wife, Joan reminds him of that, and Joan took it as a compliment, and I thought this was very interesting. So this is probably because I'm young, but this is like the weirdest thing to navigate. So for me, when dating, one of my biggest pet peeves is somebody who constantly mentions their ex. And that's actually a huge red flag, especially a first date. If I'm on a first date with someone and they mention their ex like 3 times, in my head, I'm like, oh, they're not over their ex. And let me tell y'all, for the people who have not dated in a while and you haven't been in these streets, there are so many people out there dating who are not over their exes, and they're, I guess, trying to get over their exes by dating someone else. And I personally don't think that works. Like, you should probably just take some time to heal, but that's very much a debatable question and people got different views. But anyways, going back to Joan and Chock. So these people were married. Chock was married for almost 10 years and Joan was married to her husband for like 30 years. But their spouses will come up, and Joan and Chock will always hold a space in their heart for their spouses. So how do you navigate dating someone new and understanding if they have space for someone new in their heart? Like, that's something I think would really be tough to navigate, and you probably wouldn't be able to figure it out in the length of time in this show. And that's very much something you got to spend time with that person and talk to them and like see the interactions and like try to figure out. And like Charles L, for example, he says he's lonely and he wants someone else in his life, and Joan as well. Joan was encouraged by her husband who died to like move on with life and continue dating, and now she's like trying to do that, and she says that's what she wants to do. And Charles L, same, they say it, but are you actually ready for it? Anyways, going back to Chock and Joan, overall it was a great date, but I just don't think Joan likes him that much. Like, and not only that, Joan was like carrying this date, and it just seems to me like Chock and Joan just have a lot in common. Like, I don't think they're a good match per se. Like, you can meet a person and have a lot of things in common, but that doesn't mean y'all are meant to be together. Now we're moving on to group date number 2, the talent show. And right before this talent show happened, we got some footage of the guys in the house, and like the garbage disposal in the kitchen was having an issue and Kim fixed it. And basically Kim just had to like reset the disposal. Like, randomly I had to do this like 5 months ago, and I had to like pull it up on YouTube and like figure it out. But after I fixed it, I felt very accomplished. Anyways, going back to the talent show. So this was possibly the worst talent show I have seen on this show ever. This felt like a talent show that you would see at a retirement home, and like anyone who participates gets extra dessert. There isn't like a real prize. But Joan ends up picking a winner, and like, I don't think anyone deserved to win. And the crazy part is I have seen so many challenges and group dates on this show where like they truly just don't pick a winner. And I just don't understand why they didn't do that for this. Like I truly thought nobody deserved to win. And one of the judges for this talent show was Lonnie Love. And y'all, I just don't really care for Lonnie Love. She's a recurring judge on Drag Race and she was also on The Real. And I'm just kind of over it. And like when she's a judge on Drag Race, in my head, I'm just like, why are you here? And having her as a judge on this talent competition, I felt the same way. Like, why are you here? And for the talent show, there's just a couple things I want to point out. First is Jack. For his talent, he did a show with some sock puppets, and I just absolutely love this. Y'all, Jack is a star. Like, he just makes good reality TV. Next is Pascal. Y'all, Pascal styled a wig from Temu. Like, I was gagged when he did this as his talent. But like, don't get me wrong, it makes sense because he's a hairstylist and he owns a salon, but I was just gagged when he pulled out that wig and started styling it, and it looked really good. But in all honesty, that is easily the gayest talent I've ever seen on this show. And then the last thing I want to point out, so Kim was like a little mad that like he didn't win the talent show. I think he sang or did a poem or something. I don't even remember. But like, Kim, I don't think anyone deserved to win. Like, I understand you're upset and wanted more time with Joan, but like, I don't think anyone deserved to win. So for him to be mad is like wild. Dan ends up winning the talent show. He does like the ribbons like that they do during rhythmic gymnastics, and like he told some jokes because he has tremors and it makes his hand shake, so the ribbons made sense or something, so he ended up winning. During his one-on-one with Joan, he discusses his tremors, and then he got a diagnosis from his doctor that he only had like 6 months to live or something, and he had some health issues. He was able to work through it, yada yada yada, lived longer. And like overall, their one-on-one, I don't think Joan is really feeling him that much. And I know y'all are probably watching this video like, dang, Demetri, you don't think she likes anyone. But overall, it felt like Joan was just kind of phoning it in this episode. Like, to me, Joan didn't seem like completely there this episode. Am I the only one who thinks that? If somebody else felt that way, just let me know below in the comments. After that, we move on to the cocktail party, and instead of having the cocktail party, they decided to do a cookout, and there's just some things I want to point out. First, why was Jack not the grill daddy for this cookout? They put like Christopher on the grill, and first of all, Christopher put barbecue sauce on the burgers, and he said that's New York style, and I'm like, where in New York do they do that? Somebody tell me. If you know in the comments where in New York they do this, let me know, because I've never seen or heard of that. And I completely agree with Jack. The burgers should be cooked medium rare, and you do not put barbecue sauce on it because it's gonna take away from the flavor of the meat. Like, I 100% agree with Jack. Put Jack on the grill, put him in the game, coach. And later on in the episode, Christopher ends up getting eliminated, and you know, he deserved it because like, why are you ruining these burgers with barbecue sauce? Next, we find out Pascal is a material girl, but that's not really surprising. So Pascal takes Joan for like a tour of where the dudes sleep and the tour of the closet, and then Pascal points out his Hermes and Gucci and some other like brand, and like he's a label, and like that's really not shocking, but like that's just not, I don't think that's attractive. And there's nothing wrong with having nice things or wanting nice things, but it's just very clear Pascal is trying to win her over with like what he can provide her and not as much his personality. Next, Joan has a one-on-one with Gary, and Joan gives Gary a framed photo of them at the prom, and this was so corny. Like, of course Joan would give this to the biggest cornball contestant. Next, Joan has a one-on-one with Kim, and this is one of the moments where to me it seems more clear who she's into, because when she had this one-on-one with Kim, she just seemed so much more present. And again, I think she has, I do think Kim is one of the dudes she's into. And lastly, we have a one-on-one with Mark, and y'all, Mark is very Southern and very slow-paced. Like, that would actually drive me nuts. Mark is from Louisiana, and I have a lot of family from there, and it's just a much slower pace of life, and it very much shows in the people too, and that seems like him. And like, there's nothing wrong with that, but since I grew up here, in my head, I'm just like, how do y'all just have no sense of urgency? Anyways, so Mark tells Joan that he was in the army for 24 years and he spent 11 of those years in Germany, and he was able to learn some German, and he tries to teach her some German. I absolutely love this. So I'm pretty good at Spanish and I kind of want to learn another language. So if somebody proposed like learning a language together, I would absolutely love that. After that, we move on to the rose ceremony, and yep, it's that time outfit of the episode. For this week's outfit of the episode, I'm giving it to Joan during the rose ceremony. Joan serves us this beautiful floor-length gown. I believe it's green. It's like a lime green, or is it a yellow? Whatever. It's beautiful. I love the dragonfly on the shoulder, and then it also has this like cape. I think it goes to the floor too. It looks very 80s, but it also looks very good. And when the contestants saw her, they were gagged. And don't get me wrong, I don't love a cape per se normally, but what I love about this is I love how the dress and then the cape are different materials, but the colors are very similar. That contrast just looks so good. And not only that, she pairs it with a side ponytail, and y'all know I love a side pony. Like, this whole outfit was just such a serve. So moving on to the rose ceremony, there really were no upsets. The only one was that Jack got eliminated, which if I was another contestant on this show, I would be so bummed if Jack got eliminated, because now who's gonna cook the good food? Like, Jack was in that mansion cooking, and I'm pretty sure he's a good cook. Like, I would be sad if he left. And also, Jack was just fun. When it comes to the Bachelorette, you want to have one or two guys in the house that are just fun. You may not necessarily like them. They're in your mind, they're probably not even close to top 4, but it's always good to have like a few guys that are just fun to have around in the house. Dudes like Jack just can cut a lot of the tension in the house, and sometimes the house on the Bachelorette can get a little too fratty. Guys like him make the house more fun. And that's all I got. Next week, the guys are playing kickball, and y'all, I'm kind of scared for that because y'all, kickball is like kind of dangerous. So I played kickball in a rec league for 3 years, and kickball tends to have the most injuries compared to like all the other sports because people don't like take it serious, so they tend to get hurt, or sometimes people will drink or do other substances before playing because they're not taking it seriously, and then they get hurt because of that too. Outside of rugby, I don't think there's any other sport that I've seen more injuries in than kickball. So hopefully next week these dudes don't get hurt. And that's all I got. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.